What's up, guys? Back at it again on the turbo truck build. So we've got all of our sensors for the data we need to run our Holley Dominator. I haven't mentioned that yet, but I decided to swap. I needed more inputs and outputs, and I liked the boost control and other options of the Dominator, so I sold my Terminator X-Max and I ordered a Dominator. We're just waiting for it to ship in. Regardless, both ECUs, I needed these sensors, and Rife just happened to have a sale specifically for turbo vehicles that needed pressure transducers and a bunch of other stuff to do boost control correctly. So I'll go over kind of what I got, and then we're going to install it. So again, this is Rife sensors. If you're going to ball out on sensors, this is one of them. Holley also makes them, and a lot of people use low dollar, not knocking any of those. Plenty of people have used them without issue. This stuff is just supposed to be a little higher end. We're going to find out. I've read that they are not really that much different from anything you buy from low dollar, but I had the money, so we're going to do it anyways. So we'll kind of go over what we got here. So first one is IAT sensor, and I've already opened some of these. So again, nothing fancy. So it came with an IAT sensor, a bung if you need to weld it into your charge piping. I'm not going to use this. I'm actually going to drill and tap my intake manifold for that. We've got a coolant temperature sensor. So coolant temp only. Again, I have an OEM one, but this just came with this kit of stuff, so we'll go ahead and use the nicer Rife one. We've got, this is the adapter to adapt the Chevrolet oil pressure sensor to 1/8 inch NPT, which is what all these pressure transducers are. Let's see here. Oh, this is not sensor related, but all the lines we did in the last video, I had one that didn't kind of sit right, and I didn't really want to redo the hose ends because it was a real pain in the butt. So I found a 90-degree male to female AN fitting, and I'm just going to use that, and that'll 90 the line down and give me a lot more room. So that's what that's for. This is so we can attach. One of our pressure transducers is actually a map sensor. So we're going to ditch the stock. I have a GM 3-bar in it that a friend kindly donated to me. Since this kit comes with a map sensor, and the wire harness that I'm using is going to use a different style connector than the factory one, we're going to go to this. I have a Holley high ram. A lot of guys, the port on the back of it is already sized correctly where you can just run an 1/8 inch tap through it, and then you can screw your map sensor directly in. I decided I didn't want to do that. Motion makes a bolt-in style type deal where you can screw into this end, it's O-ringed on this end, and it bolts in the factory spot. Reason being, it's a drag and drive truck. If I'm out on the road and let's say that map sensor fails, if that hole is tapped with threads, you'll never be able to get an OEM map sensor to seal again in it. So the idea is, if for whatever reason, and I shouldn't because these are nicer, if I have a map sensor failure, I can just unbolt this and bolt a factory GM style map sensor that you can most likely get at auto parts stores around the country extremely easily. And if not, I can screw a spare one into that. So either way, it gives me versatility, so that's why I'm not tapping that for 1/8 inch. And then these are all kind of the same, basically, but except for this one. So it's a 3-bar, just like the OEM one. As you can see, it uses a different style connector. I forget the name of this, but it's the little 3-pinned round-looking one. And then these are all, they look the same, but these are all 100 psi pressure transducers. So they all do the same thing. They can be programmed for whatever you want to use it for. So you can see 100 psi, same style connector. And these will connect directly to a Holley harness or an aftermarket Holley harness if you're having one made by somebody. So the idea for these, so obviously map sensor, then we've got dome pressure for the top of the wastegate, oil pressure, and fuel pressure. So that should cover the majority of our basic data acquisition that we have to have. Alright, so as you can see, I've tried to make this as easy as possible to take the intake off. So all the lines, brake booster, boost controller, fuel pressure regulator, and this other line's for the radiator, stay behind. You just have to disconnect them with AN wrenches. So step one is going to be getting that OEM oil pressure sensor out of the hole. Alright boys, pay attention here. This is critical for some of you. To adapt to a pressure transducer, you need this little fitting. Oops. That's the sealing washer for it. The top of it's threaded for an 1/8 inch NPT sensor. The bottom's threaded for the standard GM sensor. This fitting is aluminum. This block is cast iron. If your name is Jack Mehoff and you have a gigantic right forearm and put this in there and crank on it with a huge ratchet, you will break this off in there. You'll strip it out and then you're effed times 1,000. So it's got a sealing washer. It's not under 10,000 PSI. It's under like 80. Just snug it. Don't go crazy. I don't know how else to say this other than don't go nuts, because you will break this off in the block. And then you're going to have a really bad day. I'm going to put a little liquid Teflon on this just to be on the safe side. It's really not needed because it has a crush washer. It should be fine, but I'm going to do it anyways. So. Alright, notice I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet, not a 12 inch long 3/8 or 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm using one hand to snug this. Wow, amazing. It's bottomed out right now. We're gonna go maybe a quart or more. That is plenty tight. It should not leak. If it leaks, you either cross-threaded it or did something stupid. See? One hand. She's tight. That's all you need. Now you'll put some thread tape on the oil pressure sensor. Screw that in. Same thing. It's aluminum. The sensor body, I think, is steel. It might be aluminum. Either way, aluminum is a soft metal, so if you get crazy putting the sensor in, you'll also strip it on the top side, which is just as bad. So don't do either. Okay, tape the threads. Obviously run your tape against the threads so when you screw it in, it doesn't unwind your tape. If you didn't know that or grew up with a plumber or a mechanic in your life, I actually did not know that for a very long time until someone taught me about it. Obviously, start the thing by hand. This is it now. This is NPT thread, so it's gonna not want to bottom out. And if you try and make it bottom out, you'll break the sensor. So don't do that. I might not have the right socket for this. Let me see if I have something to run this down with. Okay, maybe. It's a little loose, but we're not going to get crazy with it anyways. Oops. Notice I have a giant ratchet and I'm grabbing way up here so I don't over torque this thing. It's getting pretty tight. Alright, that feels pretty good. About right there. So, let's see if I can show you here. I can't show you. There's probably, I don't know, there's a good chunk of threads showing, but it's tightened up. I mean, it doesn't feel wobbly in there. I'm not worried about it. I might turn it just a hair so the connector will be easier to clip in. But that's how you do the first of 3 transducers. That's going to be oil pressure. So all of the pressure transducers are the same. They're all 0 to 100 psi, with the exception of the map sensor. I don't know how the scaling is different from those other sensors, but it's labeled as a 3-bar. So obviously, don't take the one that says 3-bar and put it in the oil pressure hole, because it's probably going to be wrong. So, anyways. Okay, our other sensors actually all pretty much go in here except for the dome pressure. So, map sensor and fuel pressure sensor are going to get installed in this thing. I have to drill a hole for the intake air temp sensor, so I'm going to take all my fuel system stuff off to make sure I don't get any kind of metal shavings or anything in the fuel system. So take the factory map sensor off, do that next. There. Here's the Motion Raceworks adapter, so we don't have to thread that hole. A little bit of shmoo on the O-ring. That and up the hole. little bit of thread locker since this is going on the final time. Just the blue stuff, not the permanent, anything crazy. If we need to take this back out, we need to be able to get it out without doing anything super stupid. Okay. Put that bad boy in there. Snug her down. Keep all your pipe plugs because you never know when you need one, and it's nice not to have to run to the store because you're missing one and need it. Move this back up so. Alright, so thread tape, like so. Make sure it's not covering the hole, obviously. You don't want that over the top or a big tail hanging off into the intake, so I'm going to put that in like that. Okay, you guys seeing the same problem I am? They're desperately running out of real estate back here. I've got a 90 that goes there and then there. And these fittings don't have room to move around. So also we're hanging way the far out back behind here. So I gotta double check and make sure this will fit once I put the pigtail in it. Otherwise we might have to do like an 1/8 inch male MPT on a 90 downwards and mount the sensor down here like this. Let me see how this fits. Be right back. Okay, well, just discovered our first issue. I can get the intake on, but there's almost no clearance. When the connector's plugged in, it's gonna be rubbing against the firewall. So I'm gonna have to ditch this nice little billet piece and put in, tap that hole like kind of I originally planned, which sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, there's just not a good way to do it, so oh well. Part of building a race car is figuring out where stuff goes and how it fits. So. Alright, we're gonna put our fuel pressure sensor in. So obviously this is the fuel pressure regulator, that top port that I never plugged. That's what this guy is for. Thread her in. This for a second. So, something like that. It'll work. Luckily there's enough flex in the hose, it's not gonna bump it. Cool. That's done. Guess on to drilling and tapping this thing for the map sensor and the IAT sensor, which is that boy right there. And from people I've talked to, the ideal place to put this thing for the best reading is going to be like right there between the second and third runner. You can really put it anywhere. You could stick it in the lid if you wanted to, but ideally right there, kind of out of the way. You'll probably go to, you need to keep in mind that you got to get a tap to it, so it's got to be far enough out where you can get a tap to it and also not be in the way of your fuel rails, so don't make a mistake. I thought about putting it up here in the throat of it, but I think we're probably going to do this right here. So, matter of fact, let's put the rail on and look at it real quick, just to make sure we don't do something stupid. You know, measure once, cut 4 times, right? So if we go, if that thing's sunk all the way in there, somewhere about right there. Might not be able to use a T-handle. I might have to use a, maybe, depending on how much angle I put on it. But cool. Okay, so that's the plan. Right there. I'm gonna mark it. Okay. Hopefully I don't screw it up. For the record, this is extremely stressful and a terrible idea to do when you're tired and not fully with it, and I'm all of those things right now, but I'm going to do it anyways. About to drill a hole in my $1,000 intake manifold for this stupid IAT sensor, so wish me luck. No turning back now. Oh, I can't believe I just did that. Here she is. So here's the idea. I'm gonna tap that for 1/8 inch. Just like that. Okay. Be right back. Grab the tap. Okay, so ideally you would use cutting fluid for this, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to use a little anti-seize. And I'm going to start it with this T-handle to make sure it's as straight as it can be. Yeah, let's get an idea of what angle we're at here. We're at a little bit of an angle. I'm gonna have to use a ratchet. Usually don't want to use a ratchet because it can pull you off course, but we don't have a choice in this. So just take your extension off, make it as short as you can, use a correct socket, you should be fine. So you want to back it up every now and then go forward, and that clears the chips. And you'll notice it gets easier to cut when you do that. So we got resistance, back it up a little bit, back it forward, it's nice and smooth again. Keep going, get resistance, back it up again. This helps just cut a nice clean thread. So forward again. Little resistance, back it up again. Sometimes if it's a big hole or a blind hole, this one isn't, you'll need to actually pull the tap all the way out, clean the hole out. Alright, fresh new day. Ran out of light and memory card last night. So as you can see, we got it drilled and tapped and threaded in no problem. I used some liquid Teflon on this one. Screwed it in, and then I'll post a picture on it, but it's back there, so all good. Blew out all the shavings because obviously it made a lot of metal shavings when I drilled the hole and tapped it. Also made a quick pit stop. This is not installed yet, I just mocked it up. Here's the fix for this running into the firewall. It's a 90-degree union, NPT to NPT, so it moves the sensor sideways. I had to tape all this back up, screw it in, and then we're ready to put the intake manifold together for the final time and actually bolt this thing down. Went ahead and put the O-rings in. As you can see, they have a nice tight fit how this is machined, so luckily we don't have to worry about them like falling out or anything weird like that. And we'll bolt it all down and reassemble this thing. There's all the bits and pieces. If you're curious, that's all the crap you need to plumb one of those to one of these. So, good times. Okay, so as you can see, map sensor's now mounted. This is a Vibrant performance part, by the way, just in case you need one. I don't know if it's going to be straight down or at an angle, but I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the lines from the truck and tighten them up on the back of the manifold first, because these are kind of hard to access once it's all in there. And kind of just hold the lines out of the way as I stick the manifold back there. But first I've got to put all this back together from where it was. So if you remember the 2 videos ago when I built the fuel system out, we got to put all the rails and junk back on it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Alright, just taking one last look to make sure I haven't dropped anything down the intake valves. Seen a lot of engines killed that way. So, we're just gonna make sure. Okay, case in point. I was sitting on top of the intake valve on this first one. I just fished it out. That's why you want to check for that stuff. Would this probably have hurt anything? No. But if we can get it out, why run it through the engine? You know, it's paper rag and it's small, but why risk it? It's a lot of money to be playing with, so. Anywho, got that out. I'm gonna go ahead and set the intake manifold down next. So, yeehaw. Okay, got her set down on there, nice and easy. Gonna go ahead and start adjusting my vacuum lines and make sure everything fits before I bolt this thing down. Then I put the throttle body, throttle cable, and the front half of the fuel system back together. So, I'll probably time lapse that. Alright, note to self, you'll notice the fuel rails are back off. That's because you can't put this intake manifold on with the fuel rails on, so. Or at least not in my application. Specs call for 50 inch-pounds, then a final of 100, I believe. 106 is the final. My torque wrench won't go any lower than 60, so we're going to start at 60 and then step it up. It does have torque sequence, which is about what you'd expect. Start in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, crisscross pattern, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll get rolling on that. I'm going to tighten all these so they're not hand loose first, and I'll come back and torque them. Okay, it's torqued down, everything's ready to go.
I'm gonna go ahead and start putting the fuel system back together, rails on, injectors in, all that good stuff. I'll cut back to it. You guys have seen this a million times already, so I'll cut back to it when I'm done.